Okay, so in this lesson, we will simplify multiplication involving variables and exponents. It's easier just to jump in and you'll see where we're going. So in this first number, the first problem, so to speak, expression, it says 8 times x. 8 times x, instead of writing it like that, we can write it as simply as 8x. So 8 times a number, 8 times a number. Instead of writing 4 times y, we can just write 4y. Now in this one, it says w times 7. If you write it like this, it kind of looks a little, that's just not the way most people do it. Because it kind of looks confusing. It looks like it can be like this. So we don't really write it like that. We just put the 7 in front. It's our coefficient. So right here, -6 is our coefficient, x. Over here, even with the fraction, just 1/2 x. It is not 1/2 x. That's wrong. On the bottom, make sure it's on the side. Technically, me on the top too, but we'll get to that. Now on this next one, it says 8 times 3x. If you were to expand this 3x, it would say 3 times x. So in reality, you have 8 times 3 times x. Remember that you can multiply in any order. So you might as well multiply, or may as well multiply the 8 and the 3. You get 24. You can't multiply by x because you don't know what it is. So 24x. Let's do it again. So 4 times, really, remember this is 9 times y. 9 times y. May as well multiply these. 4 times 9 is 36. We just keep the y. 36y. I'll pull this up a little more. Oh. Let's go back. Okay. So in this one, you may as well just multiply these. -28, because a negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 7 is 28w. In this one, we technically have -2 times x times -6. So we may as well multiply the -2 and the -6, because remember, when you have a string of multiplication, uninterrupted, you can multiply in any order. So I'm going to multiply this -2 times a -6 gives me a positive. 2 times 6 is 12. And the x just comes down. Alright, so we have a positive times a positive, so it's going to be a positive. If you do 1 divided by 2, you can get the decimal form with 0 and 5/10. So 0 and 5/10 times 5x. So that will give you 2.5, 2 and 5/10 x. Alright, let's go down a little bit. In this one, we can expand it. 9 times x times 2 times x. But remember, we can multiply in any order when it's just a chain of multiplication like this, when it's a stream. So I may as well multiply the 9 and the 2, which is 18. The question is, what is x times x? The same number times the same number. So it would give you x to the second power. Let's try it again. 7, this is really 7 times y times 6 times y. 7 times 6 is 42. Y times y is y to the second power. Y squared. So instead of writing it all out, I'm just going to do it separately or in pieces from the same. So negative times a positive is a negative. 5 times 6 is 30. W times w is w squared. W to the second power. right here, remember, when there's no coefficient, when there's no number in front, you can always put that 1 there. That doesn't mean x is 1. That means the number in front of the x, the coefficient in front of x is 1. So a negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 1 is 1. X times x is x to the second power. But technically, we don't really need this 1. You can leave it like this. This is fine. This is not like, this isn't wrong. But the way that most people write it is just x squared, because remember, there's always a 1 there. This is the one that people, the convention. All right, right here, remember, the same thing with fractions. But with fractions, you multiply across. So 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Remember, positive times a positive is a positive. Now, x times x is x to the second power. Don't forget that we can simplify. Like the convention is to simplify. So 2 6 simplifies to 1/3. So 1/3 x squared. All right. Now right here, so it's getting a little more complicated as we go. Let's go ahead and write this out first. So this is really 3 times x times x. Remember that x to the second power is just x times x. I'm expanding this right here. And then times 5 times x. So right here, remember, this is a string of multiplication, and we can multiply in any order. So I may as well multiply the 3 and the 5, which gives us 15. And we have x times x times x, which is x to the third power. We'll try that again. So I'm going to expand this. 4 times y times 6 times this y to the third means y times y times y. Remember, I can multiply in any order, so I'm going to multiply the 4 and the 6, which is 24. Then I'm going to multiply the y times y times y times y. I can represent that as y to the fourth power. Now, let's see. Another way you can think about it. Let's like shrink the steps, I guess, a little bit. So we have a positive times a negative, which is a negative number. 4 times 2 is 8. So we multiply the 4 and the negative 2. Now, how many w's are we multiplying here? Not the 4. How many times are we multiplying the w? Well, remember, w to the third power is w times w times w. So here you're multiplying w 3 times. Here you're multiplying w twice, 2 times. So it really is w times w times w times w times w. So you're multiplying w 3 times here. You're multiplying w 2 times here. So you're multiplying w 5 times, not 6 times. You're not multiplying like you did the 4 and the 2. You're counting how many times it's multiplying. 3 times and 2 times makes 5 multiplication. Or you're multiplying w 5 times. We'll do it again. So a negative times, let's put this 1 here. A negative times a positive is a negative. 7 times 1 is 7. How many x's are we multiplying here? We're multiplying 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember, x times x times x times x times, and we have another x. So we're multiplying it 4 times here, and then 1 more time here. So it's really just x to the 5th power. All right, so I don't see any coefficients, any large numbers in front, so I'm going to place that 1, make things easier. A negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 1 is 1. Now, how many times are we multiplying y here? 3 times. How many times are we multiplying here? 3 times. So we're multiplying y a total of 6 times. Remember, it's not 3 times 3, which would give you 9. it is y times y times y, which is right here, times y times y times y, which is just represented as y to the 6th power. All right? So a negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 6 is 6. W times 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 W is W to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th power. 3 and 5 give us 8. Remember, we're combining them. Sure, okay. So let's go ahead and see how we may offer some sort of proof that we didn't get it completely wrong, or, you know, it might be okay. It's probably okay. So 3 times 2, a positive times a positive is a positive. 3 times 2 is 6. X squared times x. So that's x times x from here times another x. So x to the 3rd power. So the expressions, remember this is our first expression, this is our simplified version. 3x squared times 2x and 6x cubed, or to the 3rd power, are equivalent. Okay, equivalent. Yep, they just look different. Remember, for now, let's stay away from 0 and 1, because if we put 0 here, you'll get 0. You'll get 0. You'll get 0. Even if this was a different number, you'd still get 0. So 0 is not a good number to use usually. And 1 can every so often be a little tricky. So let's just use 2. Okay. Well, there's a 2 there. There's a 2 there. I don't want to know. So let's use 4. So x equals 4. 3x squared times 2x should be equivalent to 6x to the 3rd power. So instead of x, I'm going to substitute in a 4, or I'm going to place a 4 there. That should be the same as 6 times 4 to the 3rd power. All right, so remember, we always do order of operations. Everything inside of this parenthesis, inside is already done. Okay, so let's look for exponents next. So 4 to the 2nd power is 16. We're going to multiply that by the 3 times 2 times 4. Let's just keep on this one. We finish our exponents. Now let's multiply from left, or multiply and divide from left to right. 3 times 16 is 48 times 2 times 4. And let's multiply this right here. Not that it matters at this point, but you know, I like doing each part. Is 8. So 48 times 8. 48 times 8 equals 384. Just so you know, at this step right here, I like to just do both of these at the same time just to get them out of the way. But remember, at this point, you can just multiply from left to right. Like, I could have done 48 times 2 at that point. But, all right, so right here, remember, exponents come before multiplication. So 4 to the 3rd power, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. Then I will multiply that by 6 times 6, and I do in fact get 384. So this one is equivalent to that one. So that's it. Thank you.